If 69 was the worst year, was 70 was the
70,
start of the way back, wasn't
70 for us it was. It possibly wasn't for everybody else. Because we never really realised, again, which was good for us, how low we'd got in terms of band. I mean, in terms of popularity. So we always like, we're status quo, aren't we? You know, because you've done that thing that you've always wanted to do. You've made the first hit single. Bear in mind, since 62 till 68, you're going, yeah. So once you've had a hit single, we're status quo, aren't we? So it didn't matter how low we'd sunk.
We had a taste of it, you see, and we wanted that taste to continue. And in the back of our minds, we went along with it. So we didn't realise how small we really were. So it carried on, but it was a good thing because we was playing 7 nights a week, day in, day out, year in, year out for at least a few years. And we was building up the popularity with the audiences all the time, rather than just taking what the critics were saying, that we were finished. Radio people wouldn't play our stuff. We couldn't even get work in the clubs at the beginning. We had to do gigs for expenses.
Yeah. There were certain guys. There's a guy in Tooting who used to come and see us. This fella used to have 4 or 5 clubs in South London. He used to come and see us, sometimes play in the clubs in North London. He used to be down there really getting off, and he used to come and see us afterwards and tell us that he loved the band, but he could never see his clubs because of the name association. The name was too unfashionable, and it took a long time for us to get into his clubs. And even at that, which we never realised, at that point his clubs were so small and so, if you like, now unimportant. We didn't realise how low we were there. And there was a club in Portsmouth or Plymouth, Van Dyke clubs. They were well known, these two father and son team. They were another team that wouldn't have us in there because they couldn't chance our name going into their club because their club was too groovy. Really?
Yeah, but those clubs were very important at the time to gain acceptance with audiences, you see, because it was the underground era in those years. And bands that were making it were coming from these little clubs. The audience actually went to see them at these places. They'd never think of going to Meccas or Lyceum ballrooms or anything like that, because that was
the only circuit. That's the other circuit.
The way you see a rock band is these small clubs, this underground circuit. That's the way you see a rock band. So those clubs became very, very important. And if you didn't get in them, then basically you couldn't break. It's as simple as that. So although they're relatively unimportant now when we look back, it's just a little place that could only hold about a few hundred people, some of them, a couple of hundred people. But they were so important to a band's success as far as climbing out of it. And that's what we had to crack.
Especially for us, because we needed that. We had that real bad name. The name was really unfashionable. We must have hit at a time when there was a crossover of music coming in, and people were getting fed up. And we were just so unfashionable, it hurt. So we had to play in those. But we could have played the Meccas, carried on getting maybe £200-300. But there was no satisfaction in it at all. There was nothing. Yeah. There may be 1,200 people in there, but nothing for you in it, for the band.
I think it's because that we were so unfashionable around that time that really helped us, because we had to prove that we weren't unfashionable. We had to go the complete opposite way. We really played on the dressing down bit, really played on the static movement on stage, getting to heavy stuff. We really played on that all the time because we had to prove to people. Other bands that could just look groovy on stage, so to speak, and you wouldn't say, oh yeah, they're way out. But with us, we had to go a stage further. We had to really get to rock bottom to show people how scruffy and naughty and disrespectful we were, what a naughty lot of boys we were. And that gave us the anti-establishment type image, like what the punk bands have got now. We became the same as really in the same light as the Stones, the naughty boys, so to speak.
Because the other thing that happened was that I remember you saying that you used to play what became known as, became recognised
in the sound checks. We used to go many times. We'd be doing various gigs, and there were a couple of support bands we knew. One was called Harmony Grass, or Grass they were called, and they were friends of ours. And we used to play football for a while in the afternoon, and then go and do a so-called sound check. The gear was all set up, and we used to sit there and play for maybe 2 hours, just jamming and stuff that we'd do as we do now. And it would be that sort of, it'd be great if we could do these in the set, so we'd do the sound check and then go and play the set. And eventually bits of the sound check or numbers that we were doing in the sound check went into the set. And that's why it seems quite funny to me. It's almost the sound check became the set, and the set was out the window,
That's right.
Good fun, though.
And then in 1970 there was In My Chair. Oh, and Down the Dustpipe came first, didn't it?
Did it?
I think that was
Those
the
two
last records or singles released on Pye. That was when we were going through the period. We built up a following by then, audience following, and that's when I think we was renegotiating contracts. Then, weren't we?
Well, there was talk of it, yeah.
Making a big change.
And the Pye were good with Down the Dustpipe, because I think it was nearly 6 months from release to when it broke. So they kind of sat with it. There was a new guy, Peter Prince, at Pye, who was very good for us. He was. But after that, his hands were still tied somewhat, because the company couldn't really see where we were going. And from what they could see, we were playing in tiny little clubs and meaning nothing. And they couldn't see in our minds that we were hoping to go further. So to them, it was just shifting any sort of product, throw it out, see what happens. And then My Chair was released, and I think we got a total of 7 or 8 plays across the country, and it got to 19. And that was one of the biggest feathers in cap for a long time, yeah, to shift a record with no airplay.
It was strange at the time, because we could have done like the Mecca circuits, playing to about 1,000 people or so at a time, which was reasonable in those days. And for a company, say like Pye, to see their band play to 1,000 people with lots of screaming girls, that meant success to them. They thought that's really big. But then they see that same band go and play to 100 people in a little club somewhere. They think, oh, they're playing the dingy places now. They've gone right down. They couldn't see that one way was a short road to doom, and the other way was a build-up, building the rock or the foundation, so to speak. And so it was hard for us to get that across to people like Pye in those days. A bird in the hand to them was two in the bush.
But it's amazing that at that time you could sell a record just through your following, because it was the start of the big hype time, wasn't it? Really,
Yeah, that's at the time. It was the fact that we were actually, you see, that was genuine. That's what was so, for us, so good. 7 or 8 plays, and still gets to 19 in a national chart. That means that you were, because the fact that we were going everywhere and playing these things, and it was almost working on the thing of to the audience. We can't get play. You didn't literally come out with that, but almost analyse it. We can't get play, so it's us against them. Which it very much was with our audiences. It's us against them, the establishment, which was the beeb at the time, if you like.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly how it is now. I mean, most of our music really came from the people, because when we, as Francis said, like on stage, we used to pick up on certain riffs and jam, and the audience would pick up on those riffs themselves, stomp along with them, and then we go along and write a song.